A tearful embrace is what you'd expect to see outside a funeral. But this is different. Heightened emotions.
Obviously nervous. I mean, my son goes to school right here.
Schools on lockdown.
Like, it was like not too loud.
A day that was already difficult.
Everybody thinking it was fireworks, but no fireworks. Everybody started running.
Now, a double tragedy.
This world is getting crazy because we got a funeral right here, then plus somebody else got shot. That's crazy.
Carlos Medina heard the gunfire from his auto repair stall across the street.
I hear like 8 or 9 shots.
Cameras from his shop captured the chilling moments. The procession had just arrived when you see a group at the top of the screen begin to run. The entire crowd scatters in moments.
Immediately following the shooting, everyone at the funeral ran in all different directions, including any suspects that were among them.
One man was killed, another in critical condition.
3 people got shot in the graveyard at the gravesite of the burial.
The body, the guy is still right there.
Family covered in dirt.
The family, poor family right there, they're crying and see all these things happen again.
Unfathomable pain amplified.
At the crack of dawn, the quick pace of daily life can kick in. From the dash out the door to the idle wait in rush hour traffic. Stress.
You have to be able to leave your stress in Baltimore.
This country's deadliest big city. Stress on these streets never stops. And no one knows that better than those behind this door.
If you don't manage it over time, it'll kill you.
Shot fire! Shot fire!
Good. Stop. I'm good. Stop. No, my arm.
If you don't get help, it's going to come out somewhere else. Arresting a suspect and beating the hell out of him. I don't know why I did that. Using excessive force.
Baltimore Police Department's Vernon Herron knows firsthand the toll policing can take. 25 years ago, his life changed in the parking lot of a local shopping center. Then State Trooper Vernon Herron had just left his state police barracks and stopped to pick up food for the family. The restaurant manager approached him.
Came over to me and said, "Hey, Vernon, there's a guy in the parking lot with a gun."
As he walked out, he saw the man with the gun. Herron yelled warnings. Yelling. Silence. By gunfire. Herron found himself in the headlines. Maryland man shot by officer, an off-duty Maryland State Police officer.
That the Vernon Herron that existed before that shooting no longer existed. Dr. Jack Daniels. Dr. Jack Daniels was right there for the first night, the second night, the third night. In fact, I had to rely on Dr. Jack Daniels in order to get to sleep.
A traumatized Herron lost his balance and realized he needed professional help.
The guy saved my life.
The trooper drove 40 miles to keep supervisors from finding out.
When I was a police officer, you know, if you had an issue, the priority was how can we get him or her out of here? It wasn't like let's try to help them. It's like what can we use to get them out of here? But the police departments were not equipped to deal with that. They didn't understand it.
Now Herron heads up the Baltimore Police Department's Officer Safety and Wellness section. Until 2 years ago, officer wellness was shrouded in secrecy.
Because historically what we've done is if you're a police officer and you become an alcoholic, we will terminate you. You know, if you're having domestic problems at home, we'll tell you don't bring those personal problems here to the police department. And heaven forbid if you talk about suicide, you know. If you talk about suicide, then we're definitely going to try to get rid of you.
A report published this year found more officers committed suicide in 2017 than died in the line of duty, 140 compared to 129. Alcoholism has also plagued police. One study found up to 23% of officers surveyed abuse alcohol. That's 3 times the national average.
There's not a day that goes by that I somehow don't think about alcohol or drinking again. It's tough.
For this Baltimore police officer, the weight of the badge became too much to bear.
I could not function without alcohol.
The department asked we not identify him for confidentiality reasons.
During shift change, we would have what we called choir practice, and we'd be on the district lot, you know, at the bottom of the lot. We'd be off duty, of course, and we would have a couple beers.
A culture he could balance at first, but after 18 years became a problem.
I wasn't drinking on the job, but it would have gotten to that. There were times where it was just so stressful. It was like, man, I need a drink. I can't wait to get off work.
Studies have found the constant exposure to stress can lead officers to abuse alcohol, especially if they suffer from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Police are 6 times more likely to suffer from PTSD than the general public.
Every call you go to, people are cursing you out, and or you got to deal with just stressful situations. People are always fighting, yelling, screaming, and that's what we deal with every single day. And, the alcohol was helping me deal with that.
A city cop who drank so much he began to suffer alcohol withdrawal within hours of starting his shift.
It made me more agitated. Anxiety was always there, being angry.
In 2017, the officer hit rock bottom.
When I started drinking every single day, heavily, every single day. I was drinking so much I was throwing up.
The struggling patrolman turned to the very person Heron avoided.
I called a supervisor at work. I told him, look, I don't think I can quit on my own.
Within 2 hours, Heron had the officer heading to rehab. He's one of 20 officers in the past 2 years to voluntarily go through the month-long program. This officer's been sober since January. Do you think you're a better police officer?
I'm a better police officer, yes, absolutely. People that have addictions out on the street that we deal with on a daily basis, I am a little bit more sympathetic to them. I look at them and I see myself, 7, 8 months ago.
An officer who once policed city streets agitated, angry, and anxious, now showing signs of empathy and patience.
We're just normal people, that just happen to choose this profession.
We are hands of time.
Accuracy here is usually measured to the exact second. But right now, they're in the process of changing time.
We are going into the future.
In this shop, that means moving ahead 1 hour.
Perfect.
They have more than 400 clocks, which means springing forward 400 times.
Advancing the hour hand is so much easier than going back 11 hours, okay.
Clock shop owner Bob Capone has been bouncing time on these clocks twice a year for 31 years.
This is a battery-operated clock, and if you can get around here...
While so many faces look on, he shares a secret about the hands.
You should always change it by turning the knob in the back as opposed to turning the hands themselves.
It's a tedious task.
So I'm going to go ahead and set the time.
The Eisenhower clock is even a bit of a celebrity, but not because of its name.
This clock was actually featured in House of Cards.
A man on a mission.
In order to correctly change the time on these big battery clocks.
To erase 1 hour.
You should never actually turn the minute hand to change the time. You should always take the back of the clock. In this case, this is very easy to do because the whole back comes off.
Every clock gets a bit of his time.
Since the Betty Boop.
While others chime in.
And I have to find the hook.
He's spending today on daylight savings in Savage Mill.
We love doing this. We love it.
Kathleen Cairns, Fox 45 News.
In Baltimore, you see numbers, hear numbers.
1, Kareem Bonner. 2, Josh Facobia.
Number 34, Owen Creighton.
45, Montrell Rivers.
Measuring where?
82, Paul Smith.
Who?
176, Claude Miles III.
And how many?
342, James Woodard.
661, Keith Patterson.
It can feel like too many to count, too many to bear.
1,000, Daniel Mulhausen.
Behind each number is a story.
1,093, Gilbert White.
Of a sister, father, a son.
216th murder.
Murder 216. In the year 2016, Amani Grossman, Latresa Scaff's son. Latresa raised a family here along Bonaparte Avenue in East Baltimore. It may not have been sweet, but it was home.
They've seen people get beat up real bad. You know, like I said, bodies. They hear gunshots. They couldn't go outside and play.
Her oldest son, Amani, grew up here.
It was like the life of the family gatherings. Make everybody laugh.
But that brightness began to fade as a teen.
He would talk about the violence every day. You know, like things like, Ma, if you don't get us out this city, I'ma die. I know I'ma die.
Despite those fears, Amani remained resilient. That's Amani making a game-winning basket in a middle school game.
That ended up being one of those games where everyone rushes off the court and everyone's cheering and all that stuff. So that's probably the first memory that I have, or when I think of Amani, that's probably the first memory that I have.
Pablo Gorapecki coached Amani in middle school.
He was the kind of player, you know, coaches dream about.
Away from school, though, Amani faced threats and unshakable street violence. At 13, his life was threatened at knife point, and he never shook what he witnessed while shooting dice one day along his block. Amani described to a psychologist how, quote, a guy came up and blew another guy's brains out. Doctors later diagnosed Amani with PTSD. Amani's evaluation followed one of his 3 arrests by the age of 17. The cases involved an armed robbery, a carjacking, and an alleged sex offense. Prosecutors dropped the charges in all but one case. Amani pled guilty in the sex offense. A judge sentenced him to 10 years but suspended 9 of them. One of his childhood friends was a co-defendant in that case.
That's what kept drawing him back into the city, his childhood friends.
That's why Latresa sent Amani to Virginia to earn his high school diploma.
While he was away in school, he lost maybe like 3 of his close friends to gun violence. So that's when I got nervous about him coming back to Baltimore.
Latresa moved out of the city and into the county in hopes of providing a safer life for her family.
He didn't like it out here. He said it was nothing to do. He was bored.
By 2016, Amani was back in Baltimore with the same childhood friend charged in that sex offense case. This video shows them together on September 14th. Seconds later, shots rang out. Amani's childhood friend stood by and watched as he was murdered.
I felt it. It was horrible. This is the most pain I ever endured in life.
Since the beginning of 2015, almost 1,100 people have been murdered in Baltimore. A single number that doesn't provide a true reflection of the total number of mothers, sons, and friends left wounded.
It made you look in the mirror a little bit and figure out, like, where are we kind of failing them?
Amani's bed just as he left it that day.
I just hug the pillow sometimes because I can still smell him.
In the corner is his jersey.
He loved basketball.
A gift from the team.
He's at the end, number 2. I was picturing him going out of state to college, playing professional basketball.
A similar picture now hangs in the gym at Amani's middle school.
He's very much alive. In different places I've written down his name and things like that. So, you know, whenever I'm having a bad day, you might open the book in your notebook and you kind of see him, see his name there, and you kind of remember that there's a reason why we're here and there's a reason why we're doing what we're doing.
This has got to stop being our meeting place.
This is one of the few spots where families don't want to meet. It's been just over a year and a half since Amani's murder, and family members are gathering again to see Amani's newly placed headstone.
Baby.
It's just one of the grave sites Latresa plans to visit.
Look at my brother.
Loss in this family has been passed down generation to generation.
Oh, my baby.
Latresa's brother was shot and killed in Baltimore in 2003. Her father murdered in 1981.
I don't even know what to do at this point in time. It's too much. Something has to be done with these murders.
Baltimore has lost more than 1,000 people over the past 3 years to murder. Latresa's lost 3. But there's one new number, Amani's son. A child with the same potential as those who've come before him.
Thy kingdom come, thy will be done.
A hope Latresa holds on to.
Lead us not, but deliver us from evil.
And prays this next generation
Love you, Marnie.
will follow a different path.
All them bullets.